All right, guys, today I'm going to teach you why ice really does matter, and I'm also going to teach you how to make crystal clear blocks of it. When you're creating drinks, cocktails, mocktails, whatever it may be at home, there are three main kinds of ice that you're gonna wanna familiarize yourself with. Now first, the most important and the most common is just freezer ice. It's really basic, it's really boring, and it makes for good cocktails, but doesn't make anything pretty. Next up, we have crushed ice, which is amazing for tiki cocktails, saves you dilution, saves you time. A lot of things go right when you use crushed ice. You can get really good crushed ice at Sonic, by the way. Just go for the drive-thru, ask for a little bit of crushed pebble ice. And probably the reason you're here in this video is crystal clear, large cubes. I'm gonna teach you how to make it. Let's do it. All right, so the first thing you're gonna need when you're making a block of clear ice is a cooler about this size, and you're gonna wanna make sure there's plenty of room so this can fit in your freezer. Next, we're gonna fill it up 2/3 of the way with water. Now, this is a common misbelief. You have to use distilled water or it has to be hot water. None of that is true. This is a method called directional freezing. There's nothing special about it. You don't need special water. You don't need any other weird theories. It is just as simple as freezing 2/3 of this cooler at once. That's how you get crystal clear ice. Now that we've got this 2/3 of the way filled, we're gonna take our cooler and put it none other than in the freezer. Close it up, and now this is where it gets tricky. I highly recommend going on your phone and putting in a little notification, little reminder, say, hey, remind me in 36 hours to take the ice out of the freezer because you will forget. Also, it's really important that you look at the time of day when you're doing this. So let's say it's 3 p.m. and I wait 36 hours from 3 p.m. It's gonna be 3 a.m. when it's time to take this ice out of the freezer. I'm not getting up for that. Make sure you do it in a more reasonable time of day. Think about what time it's gonna be in 36 hours, but hey, let's wait 36 hours and I'm gonna show you my crystal clear ice. Now that your ice has been freezing for literally 36 hours, it's time to take it out of the freezer. At a first glance, this looks frozen solid, but trust me, it's not. All we have to do is lie this face down in the sink, give it a little push to get it started, and this is gonna take about an hour, 30 minutes at the minimum to thaw out so that you're left with your crystal clear block of ice, but we'll get to that when it's time. All right, so check this out. This has been thawing out for probably almost an hour now, about the time I said. And now, in just a second here, it's gonna drop down. I'm like 90% sure. I'm giving my cooler CPR. It dropped. Okay, so check it out. You remove the top of the cooler and you're left with not a perfect block of ice. You got a lot of imperfections here. So what I do is I take a meat tenderizer and I just beat the ice off of it so that we're left with a nice block. Boom, that is a block of clear ice right here. All right, so now we have our block of ice. It's time to chop this up. Now, I have a very unprofessional way of doing this. I don't know if there's more professional ways out here. But what I like to do is to take this giant knife that I got for free. I have destroyed the blade from chopping ice. Don't use a nice knife. Use something you don't really care about, but is gonna be strong enough and heavy enough to chop through ice, because this isn't a joke here. You just, there you go. That's how you do it. Now, if you wanted to be patient, you can cut it, you can be gentle, but I got places to be, things to do. I'm a masher, 100%. Now, every piece of ice, it's just not gonna come out perfect. It's not. I'm not a perfectionist like that. I'm sure if you took the time, you could. There are some people who really carve out their ice, but this is what I was looking for, a crystal clear cube. Just like that, that's what this is. So now we have all three types of ice ready. We have our crushed ice, we have our large cube, and we have our freezer ice. It's time to put it to the test and show you guys what the difference really is. So let's start by filling up a glass with our nasty, ugly freezer ice. Oh, that is just not that ugly, it's not that bad. I'm gonna grab it with my bare hands, my large cube. And finally, we have our crushed ice over here. Now, I make crushed ice pretty simply. All I do is I take this classy Crown Royal bag, throw in some ice, and I just beat it until I have crushed ice just like so. As I said, Sonic, Cane's, all that, they have great crushed ice, but it is really easy to make at home in small quantities. But if you need it for a party, you're gonna wanna go ahead and go there. We are going to make 3 rum and cokes, and I'm gonna show you why ice matters. Let's do an ounce of rum in each glass. Now, without adding any Coke to this, you can already kind of tell. We'll give them all a little swirl. The large cube even sounds classier, believe it or not. Now, if I'm gonna taste each of these rums, guess which one's gonna taste the best? Very true to the actual flavor. Even more so with this one. You didn't get as much. This one's overly diluted, whereas this one's just nice and cold. And this one, we'll see if I can get anything out of it. Yeah, definitely just watered down at this point. For the true test, we are going to add Cokes to each one of these. Again, we're going to give it a little bit of a stir. And I think visually you can see which one's the most pleasing. I mean, this one looks like a real drink. This looks like something I made in my kitchen. And this looks like something you'd order from a tiki bar. And that's pretty accurate on all accounts. So let's try it, see how each one tastes and where the difference is. This one's sweet, easy to drink, a little bit watered down, but nothing crazy. Tastes like a rum and coke. Tastes like a better rum and coke. I can still taste most of the rum because it hasn't been watered down. It has that large cube just chilling it, cooling it out, and that is that. And finally, we have this abomination. Even the Coke's watered down on that. This really just tastes like water. Now, you're probably wondering, why do we have these 3 ways to make cocktails? Why do we have so many different ways to crush up ice and make it clear and blah, 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 blah? Why do they all matter? Well, I'll tell you why. If you're making a tiki drink, a lot of times they are very sugary and very overproof, meaning they are very, very packed with rum and sugar. So if you're making a high-proof rum drink that's packed with sugar, it's perfect to pour it over crushed ice, and that helps with dilution. It's almost a necessary part of creating a cocktail to have crushed ice, especially when you're dealing with overproof spirits. That's why you see so many different rum recipes calling for overproof rum, rum 151, and so on. This is excellent ice, it's just not good in a rum and coke, and that's why ice matters, because if you say ice doesn't matter, you're just being ignorant at this point. There is a clear difference between these 2 drinks, and you cannot tell me there's no difference. Now this large cube is perfect and ideal for any situation besides the overproof rum cocktails. I think that every drink should have a large cube in it, if not multiple large cubes, because this is the best way to keep a drink cold without becoming watered down. And this is perfect for whiskey on the rocks. This is perfect for your standard non-tiki cocktails. This is perfect for every scenario ever. And finally, we do have our freezer ice, and there is a time and a place for freezer ice. The time for freezer ice is when you can't get a hold of these 2. Freezer ice is not that bad. You're not gonna notice a huge difference between these 2. But the difference here is amateur to expert. That is all you're dealing with. So those are the 3 main types of ice. I hope you learned something from this video. I hope you learned why ice matters so much, and I hope you learned how to make crystal clear ice just like me. And again, if you don't think that's how you make clear ice, I mean, argue with a wall. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions still at this point, make sure to drop them in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.